Hi everyone, Pomi here, and today I am thrilled to show you guys my experience making it all the way to the top of a tournament with not just Clock Mirage, but also a secret prize bay that pretty much no one else is using in their decks. I'm super excited to show you guys how it went, so let's go ahead and get right into my deck, shall we? So as the title states, I of course started my deck with Clock Mirage on 455 low orb. This stamina monster can actually outspin Wizard Rod, and as long as you don't get hit by a strong attacker, it'll pretty much outspin any opponent. 455 is currently the best ratchet for Clock Mirage in my opinion because alongside low orb, it allows the bay to get as low as possible to avoid getting ratchet sniped by strong attackers like Shark or Hover Wyvern. Low orb is also very solid because it has a lot of stamina, and since most rods are using Hexa nowadays, it typically will outspin pretty much every stamina type. My next bay, of course, is the solid Phoenix Wing, this time on 960 points. I actually believe I used a combo very similar to this at the first Meeple-a-thon tournament that I went to last year. And I mean, hey, it's a pretty timeless combo, you know, 960 is a solid ratchet that clings on to Phoenix Wing, preventing it from getting burst, and Point has a lot of in-game stamina while also having some pretty powerful attack. Also, I mean, between you and me, this color combination cannot be beat. The next bay I wanted to show off was one that I only used for like the first round or two because I originally had a different idea for this deck, and it's actually Phoenix Feather on 560 Rush. What can I say about this? Phoenix Feather is a very challenging blade to use. It's very hard to control just because it flies around the stadium so much, but if you can actually get a solid hit with it, it probably will get a knockout. But eventually, I did end up benching it for reasons that I'll explain a bit later as we get into the rounds. But last but not least, I of course have my secret ace up my sleeve, Phoenix Rudder on 160 kick. This combo is extremely underrated, and I think people should be using it way more often. This thing destabilizes CX bays like nobody's business, and alongside with kick, it has a ton of stamina to outspin them. The 160 ratchet allows Phoenix Rudder to come in with even stronger attacks than it otherwise could have before, while also giving it a bit more stabilization with the orientation that I put it in. But that's about it for my deck today, so let's go ahead and get right into the first round of Swiss. Okay, so for this tournament, I actually filmed all of the battles vertically because I wasn't expecting to actually do very well with the deck that I had. But, I mean, that's just kind of how fate is, right? Maybe the nerves of not having a horizontally filmed video, you know, were subsided or something, I don't know. But, so yeah, you're going to have me right here, and I'm going to be kind of pointing over to the side at the footage. Let me know how you guys feel about this style. Anyways, the first battle had my Phoenix Wing going up against the opponent's Golem Rock, and yeah, it went pretty well. Phoenix Wing has pretty good smash attack potential just because of its high weight. And because of that, alongside of the point bit that I had on Phoenix Wing, it managed to outspin the opponent on Wedge, which was a very solid start for me. We'll take a spin finish any day of the week, even though, of course, we're always aiming for that pocket or the extreme KO. I was happy with that, but going on to the second battle was when things got a little bit iffy for me. I threw in my Phoenix Feather going up against my opponent's Dragoon on level, and I mean, I'm sure you guys can kind of guess how this is going to go. The Phoenix Feather just kind of totally tumbled. It didn't get any solid attacks in on the Dragoon, and it got destabilized, leading it to, unfortunately, lose to a spin finish. So that means the score is now 1-1, with my opponent getting the last score there, obviously. And as we went into the third battle, we had my Phoenix Rudder going against the opponent's Wizard Rod. I was a bit iffy on this one as well, but I actually have managed to get Phoenix Rudder on kick to do some pretty crazy things to Wizard Rod. And well, as you guys can kind of see going on right here, that is exactly what happened. And Wizard Rod got the two-piece hit on it by Phoenix Rudder, knocking it into the pocket and getting me another 2 points towards my victory. After that, we of course shuffled our decks, and I decided to leave with my Phoenix Wing because I figured I can probably get a solid KO or maybe a outspin at the last second there. But unfortunately, my opponent chose their Dragoon, and Phoenix Wing did not exactly do super well there. Let me check my notes. It just couldn't get enough hits in, and it sadly just lost to a spin finish against the Dragoon. But I knew that was okay. I still had some room to get some points from my opponent. So going into the next battle, we had a rematch of Wizard Rod going up against Phoenix Rudder. Again, I was just hoping to get a redo of that last battle. But unfortunately, once again, my Bay just could not get enough hits in on the opponent, and Rudder unfortunately destabilized and fell to the Wizard Rod. At this point, I kind of felt like it was over as I swapped into my Phoenix Feather for the last battle against the Golem Rock. I just didn't think that Phoenix Feather was going to be able to get the hits off that it needed. But I loaded up my Bay on my launcher and just launched with a lot of hope in my heart. And, well, that hope was rewarded because somehow, with the lightest tap in the world on the extreme line, Phoenix Feather hit Golem right into the pocket, which got me my win, which is just crazy. But hey, we're 1-0 of the day, and we're feeling pretty good. So moving on to round 2 is what I would say if I actually ended up playing in it. But it turns out that my opponent unfortunately had the forfeit, so I just got the win instead. So I guess that is technically a 2-0 record so far. But anyways, this third battle has me going up against one of the champions, Galaxy. Galaxy is a very strong opponent to go up against. He's won a couple of our tournaments in the past, and he pretty much always makes top 8. So it's a bit intimidating going against him round 3 in the tournament, but it makes sense since I was currently undefeated. So the first battle, I decided to go ahead and use my Phoenix Rudder as he decided to choose his staple, Aero Pegasus. We went ahead and launched our bays, and things turned out perfectly for me as my Phoenix Rudder was able to hit Aero Pegasus just right into the rails to cause it to jump right into the pocket, getting me 2 points. So the second battle was a bit of an unfortunate one because, as you guys will see here in just a second, he launches his bay, I launch my bay, we make some contact, and Rod almost gets knocked into the pocket, but just barely jumps out because of that 160. At least I believe there was a 160 on there. And so because of that, I may have won the battle by a spin finish, but I didn't win the match right away because I didn't get the knockout. And then this finally leads to round 3, which is slowly the descent into failure for me. So round 3, I went ahead and of course brought out Clock Mirage as I finally subbed it in for round 3, going up against Galaxy's Cobalt Dragoon on 560 Elevate. Cobalt Dragoon hit Clock Mirage just right, and it unfortunately caused Clock Mirage to bit burst right onto the pocket. So that was 2 points instantly lost for me. This just kind of messed with me for some reason. I don't know what it was, because while we were reshuffling my bays, I was like, should I go Clock Mirage? Oh, well, it just burst on me. I don't know if I should use Clock Mirage right now. And I was like, I only need 1 more point, you know, maybe I can just get it with Phoenix Rudder. And so that's what I ended up doing, and as I pulled out my Phoenix Rudder, Galaxy pulled out his Wizard Rod, and I immediately regretted my decision. And I didn't even have a chance to fully mourn that decision because right when I launched, we made contact, and Phoenix Rudder self-KO'd, basically. Ran into the rail, jumped into the pocket, and ghosted me the match. Yay, yay! I was so annoyed that I completely threw that match because I played Galaxy in tournament before and he just utterly crushed me. So whenever I had victory right there, I completely threw it. It was such a mistake. I was so sad. But Galaxy, if you're watching this, I'm gonna get you next time. I'm gonna get my run back. I'm gonna finally have a win on you. It's not gonna be 0-2 or 0-3 anymore. It's gonna be 1-2. Okay? Okay? Okay. Anyways, moving on to the next round. So moving on to round 4 finally, I started off this set with my Rudder going against the opponent's Shark on kick. We actually had very similar builds here. And well, needless to say, this set did not start very well for me because I instantly got extreme KO'd due to the Shark's well-placed attack, instantly making the score 0-3, making it that my opponent needs only 1 more point to win. I was very nervous here, but thankfully I did put my Clock Mirage on the second slot, so I was hoping to get some easy extra points with that, which ended up being exactly what I needed because I placed my Clock Mirage against their Wizard Rod, and this is the exact matchup that I designed this entire build for. Just anytime I see a stamina type or a defense type, instantly be able to close them out with Clock Mirage. And well, that's exactly what it did. As you can see right here, Clock Mirage just kind of stood still, hung out for a while, and Mirage just got the spin finish. So that currently makes the score now 1-3. I still had quite a bit of a ways to climb if I wanted to get back into the battle. But speaking of that, we actually have Battle 3 right now with my Phoenix going against their Arrow Wizard. A very interesting build. Maybe they're kind of similar to me with Rudder where they want to make it work. Unfortunately for my opponent though, it did not work out because we launched and Phoenix Wing just barely tapped Arrow Wizard right into the extreme rails, causing it to just jump right into the pocket, getting me another 2 points. And just like that, the score is now tied 3-3. So we each just needed 1 more point, and I was in the perfect spot because we were reshuffling our decks. So with that in mind, I decided to not actually choke this time, and I chose Clock Mirage like I should as a closer, as my opponent decided to use their Shark Edge. This is a very scary matchup still for Clock Mirage, just because if any attacker, especially a low attacker like Shark Edge, that gets underneath the ratchet, it's very easy to burst Clock Mirage. So I kept that in mind with my launch, as I did like a very steep angle, and I launched, and well, as you can see right here, Clock Mirage actually completely counterattacked my opponent's Shark Edge, knocking it directly into the extreme pocket, getting me an easy win. Not really an easy win, I'm lying. Alright, so for round 5 of Swiss, I once again found myself in these all-or-nothing situations where if I lose this battle, there's a good chance that I may or may not be in the top 8, so I really need to win. So starting off, we have my Clock Mirage against my opponent's Phoenix Wing. I really wanted to have a solid start, so I decided to use Clock Mirage to outspin it. And despite some close hits from Phoenix Wing, and as well as Clock almost completely destabilizing, it held out just long enough at the end to get me a single point towards the 4 that I need. So going for the second battle now, we have my Phoenix Wing going against my opponent's Wizard Rod. And this time I really intended on doing like a very stationary launch to try and get that stabilized attack. So that's what I did. I launched very solidly, and Phoenix Wing did exactly what I needed it to do. It hit Wizard Rod right into the extreme pocket, and even though it probably could have popped out if it had like a 160, thankfully the rod was on 960, so it managed to fall into the extreme pocket, getting me not only my quickest win of the day, but also my guaranteed spot in the top 8.
I made Top Gun! Ah, I made Top Gun! Finally! I did it! Wish me luck.
So getting on to quarterfinals now, I'm actually going up against a bit of an underdog because the opponent that I'm about to play is actually competing in their first tournament. This is their first tournament, so shout out to them for getting top 8 at the very first event. They actually mainly were using stock combos, which is very cool. The only thing they swapped was the Ratchet on their Silverwolf from 380 to 360. But anyways, going into the first battle, we have my Clock Mirage going up against their Phoenix Rudder, which, I mean, let's be real, Phoenix Rudder doesn't have great stamina, and Glide isn't the best stamina bit anyways. And don't get me wrong, while I love Phoenix Rudder, I just don't think it's good on stamina, and this battle clearly shows that, at least compared to the powerhouse like Clock Mirage, a bay like Phoenix Rudder just completely gets washed by it. As Clock Mirage got the spin finish, getting me my first point towards 7. The second battle had my Phoenix Wing going up against their Soul Eclipse, which is very interesting. I've actually really haven't had any experience against Soul Eclipse, and I didn't really know how to launch against it, which was pretty clear here. As you can see, Soul Eclipse just knocking out my Phoenix Wing into the pocket, sadly making me lose 2 points and getting me in a bit of a detriment in terms of points. Going into this third battle, I actually felt really good about my launches. I felt as though I finally was getting into tune with Phoenix Rudder here. So I had my Phoenix Rudder going against their Silverwolf, and I was able to launch in just the perfect way to make it so that way Phoenix Rudder can sneak right around Silverwolf and knock it right into the pocket, giving me yet another 2 points and giving me the lead once again. So we shuffled up our decks once again, and I decided to go for Phoenix Rudder yet again, as they also decided to choose their Phoenix Rudder. So they got a bit of a ditto here going on. That being said, the combos make a huge difference here, as Phoenix Rudder once again was able to sneak right around my opponent's bay, knocking it into the pocket, getting me yet another 2 points. And finally, getting into Battle 5, we have my Clock Mirage going up against my opponent's Soul Eclipse. Again, I don't really have much experience with Soul Eclipse as an opponent, but I wasn't too worried about bursting since I didn't feel as though Soul can get underneath Clock Mirage very well. The only thing I was a bit worried about was smash attacks. But I didn't actually have to worry about any of that because whenever we eventually launched, their Soul Eclipse just barely scraped my Clock Mirage as it whizzed past and just jumped into the extreme pocket, getting me 3 points and ultimately the victory. Alright, so we're finally making it to semifinals. If I can win here, I can finally beat my current best of 3rd place. So, wish me luck. So my opponent started off the battle with Silver Wolf on Wall Ball going up against my Phoenix Rudder. And it makes sense why my opponent got this far, as he did a perfect drop launch, causing Wolf to really just kind of skirt on the extreme line, as Rudder barely hits it, knocked himself into the extreme zone, and cost me 3 points. So Battle 2 had my Clock Mirage going up against my opponent's Shark Scale, which is a pretty horrible matchup for me. I mean, you don't really want to have attackers going up against Clock Mirage, but thankfully I did my typical really deep launch at a deep angle to avoid Shark's big hits on my ratchet, and thankfully as we made contact, Shark also self-extremes. So back-to-back self-extremes, I guess I just made up for karma there. We're tying up the score now. So for the 3rd battle, we had my Phoenix Wing going up against my opponent's Hover Wyvern, which is a pretty intense battle. We launched here, as you can see, and I was really hoping on that first contact where I hit Hover Wyvern towards the extreme that it would fall in, but it's not called the Pringle for nothing, as it likes to jump out of pockets a lot, so it managed to jump back out. The score is now 4-3, and this match is going by a lot faster than I was expecting. After shuffling our decks, I decided to choose Phoenix Wing to go into the set, as my opponent chose their Shark Scale. We both launch our bays with pretty comparable speed, and we're pretty evenly matched here. We're hitting our bays extremely hard, they're knocking each other back and forth, but thankfully Phoenix Wing just barely had enough stamina to outspin Shark, tying up the score once again. This is a very even match. The 5th battle had my Clock Mirage going up against my opponent's Hover Wyvern. I wasn't able to do my signature tilt launch, or at least he countered it this time, and Hover Wyvern smashing the Clock Mirage, completely bursting it instantly, making me lose 2 points. Going into battle 6, my opponent is at match point. The score is 4-6. I really need Phoenix Rudder to come in clutch for me here, going up against my opponent's Silver Wolf. We launch our bays, as you guys can see right here, and Rudder is really going in on attacks. It's really hitting Wolf as hard as it possibly can, but it just wasn't enough. The defense on Silver Wolf is just too strong, and as Rudder tried to go in for yet another attack, it was unfortunately countered and knocked into the pocket, causing me to lose the match. So if you've seen any of my other tournament videos, you would know that even though I am knocked out of Grand Finals, that does not mean the tournament is exactly over yet, because we do have the fight for 3rd battle, which I am going up against the one and only Mirage. Before the battle started, we both noticed that we are both using Clock Mirage, and we thought it'd be kind of funny if we both did a Clock Mirage off, so that's what we started the 1st battle with, my clock against his clock. However, I would be lying if I didn't say I went into it with a bit of an advantage, because my bit was on low orb and their bit was on hexa. So given just the bit difference, it was pretty obvious that I had the stamina advantage. And in a clock ditto, that's basically all you need. And as you guys can see right here, I inevitably got that outspin, winning me the 1st point. The 2nd battle had my Phoenix Rudder against their Shark Scale, and I went for a pretty decent drop launch here, but it almost costed me 3 points because Phoenix Rudder almost self-KO'd after it hit the extreme line. Thankfully, due to my 160 there, I managed to jump out of the pocket and come back in to continue the fight. And with just barely enough stamina, showing why Phoenix Rudder is technically considered to be a stamina type, Phoenix Rudder actually managed to get the spin finish. So currently it is now 2-0 going on to battle 3. This 3rd battle had both of our Phoenix Wings against each other, and it went by pretty quick, so I'm going to wrap it up quickly here. With a pretty wicked back and forth against each other, I managed to get a pretty solid hit onto the opponent's Phoenix Wing, knocking it right into the extreme zone, getting me 3 points actually, and making the score 5-0. After shuffling our decks, we both decided to do a rematch of Phoenix Wing versus Phoenix Wing. My Phoenix Wing stayed strong throughout the entire battle, tanking hits while also divvying hits, causing the opponent's Bay to inevitably destabilize, giving me yet another spin finish. The score is now 6-0. I received one more point to close it out, and you already know exactly who I'm going to be going for. This fifth battle had my Clock Mirage against their Shark Scale. The nerves from the last game slowly started hitting me once again. I was really worried I was going to get burst and just lose 2 points. But all I could really do was just take a deep breath, do another really deep tilt launch, and hope that I can avoid Shark's attacks. And thankfully, that's exactly what Clock Mirage did. As Shark Scale slowly got more and more passive, the stress started to ease off my shoulders, and I inevitably realized that I won. My Clock Mirage outspun their Shark, getting me my final point towards the 7, netting me another third place victory.
All right, well, there you go. That's the whole tournament. Third place. I can't believe it. I can't believe I won a tournament. Or, not won, but I got third place at a tournament using Phoenix Rudder in my deck. And I gotta say, it was so fun using that bay. It is so chaotic. Anything can happen. It may have cost me some points here and there, but it was so much fun to use either way. Plus, I got a red and black trophy, which perfectly matches the deck, you know? So, you know, even though I did swap off of Phoenix Feather, because it was, let's be real, it was dead weight. It was just costing me so many points. Clock Mirage really did clutch up at the end there. I was super excited for that. 7-0 for third. Hey, we'll take that, right? But that's about it for today. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys liked the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, maybe comment some thoughts. Let me know if there's any Phoenix Rudder combos that I should use. And yeah, that's about it. I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.